My name is Diego, and I was there when Grace's story changed forever. It was a crisp morning on April 12th, a date that would forever echo in her mind. The sun peeked through the cafe window as Grace sat across from her ex-husband, the tension palpable. She stood tall, her heart racing, knowing the value of what was at stake, her dreams, her freedom, and the years she had spent raising her grandkids. They were the light of her life, and the thought of them fueled her determination. As she smiled at him, a flicker of resolve danced in her eyes, masking the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. The rich aroma of morning coffee filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of traffic, creating a soundtrack to her quiet resolve. In that moment, hope wrapped around her like a warm blanket, urging her forward. Yet she smiled but trembled, knowing the fragile line between love and betrayal. How can blood turn to poison like this? What nobody knew was that this confrontation would unravel secrets that threatened to shatter everything she held dear, not just her own life, but the stability she had fought so hard to create for her grandkids over the years. The morning light filtered through the living room window, casting a warm glow over the space where Grace spent countless hours. The soft chirping of birds outside served as a gentle reminder of the new day ahead. Grace sat on the well-loved couch, a steaming mug of coffee cradled between her hands, inhaling the rich aroma that filled the air. It was a comforting scent, one that often mingled with the sweet memories of her grandkids laughing and playing around her. Every Sunday was a special occasion for Grace, a day dedicated to family and tradition. She had made it a point to organize a traditional family dinner, where recipes passed down through generations were lovingly prepared. Today, she was determined to recreate her late mother's famous barbecue ribs. The thought of their tender, smoky flavor brought a smile to her face, and she could almost hear her mother's laughter echoing in the background. As she took a sip of her coffee, she glanced around the room, noticing the colorful drawings her grandkids had made over the years adorning the walls. Each piece of art was a testament to their creativity and growth, and Grace felt her heart swell with pride. She had poured her heart and soul into raising them, stepping in when Rachel struggled with her own demons. The sacrifices she made were worth every moment spent nurturing the little ones, and she cherished the bond they shared. The door swung open, and the sound of small footsteps rushed in. "Grandma!" shouted her youngest, a bundle of energy with curly hair bouncing as he dashed toward her. Grace beamed, her heart lifting with joy. "There's my favorite little guy," she exclaimed, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Look, I made this for you," he said, holding out a crumpled piece of paper that was adorned with bright colors and a stick figure family. Grace's eyes softened, and she took the drawing, her heart swelling. "Oh my God, I can't believe this! It's beautiful!" Just then, Rachel entered the room, her presence casting a slight shadow over the warmth that filled the space. Grace's heart sank a little. She had hoped for a peaceful Sunday, but the tension between them had been palpable ever since Rachel had returned home after another stint away. "Did you really have to wear that?" Rachel said, eyeing the homemade t-shirt that proclaimed Grace as the best grandma ever. "It's just a shirt, Rachel. You know how much they love it," Grace replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Rachel rolled her eyes, but Grace could see the uncertainty in her daughter's expression. "I'm just saying it looks desperate, like you're trying too hard." Grace took a deep breath, the weight of Rachel's words pressing down on her. Thought. The smell of morning coffee brought painful memories of better days when Rachel was more present in their lives. "I'm proud of what I do for them. They need me," she said softly, holding her grandchild a little closer. David, her lifelong friend, walked in just in time to diffuse the tension. "Hey, is it time for ribs yet? I can smell them from outside," he boomed, his cheerful demeanor like a balm to the fraught atmosphere. Grace smiled, grateful for his lightheartedness. "Almost. I just need to finish the marinade," she replied, feeling a sense of relief. As they gathered around the kitchen, the playful banter and laughter filled the air. Grace found solace in the moments spent cooking together, her grandkids eagerly helping her mix ingredients and sneak tastes. "Don't tell your mom," she whispered, winking at them as they giggled. But as the meal drew closer, Rachel's demeanor shifted. She paced the living room, her expression clouded with frustration. "You don't get it. Do you? You think you can just take over my kids' lives like this?" Grace's heart dropped. "Rachel, I'm just trying to give them stability. You know how hard it's been for you," she said gently. Rachel spun around, anger flashing in her eyes. "You think this is about them? You just want to play the hero. You've kidnapped them from me, and I won't let it happen anymore." Grace's breath caught in her throat. Reflection. That moment in the living room changed everything. "Kidnapped? Rachel, I would never. I can't believe you'd even think that," Rachel cut in, her voice rising. David stepped forward, sensing the rising tension. "Grace is just trying to help, Rachel. You need to see that." But Rachel shook her head defiantly. "You don't understand. My mom is trying to take my kids away from me. I won't let her." The air thickened with silence, and Grace felt a chill settle in her heart. Cultural reflection. In the living room, it hurt like hope. A painful reminder of the rift that had formed between mother and daughter. "Rachel, please, let's talk about this," Grace pleaded, her voice trembling. "Talk? You've already made your choices. You think you can just erase me?" In that moment, Grace realized the fragility of their family bond. She had poured her heart into raising her grandkids, but the accusations that hung in the air threatened to unravel everything she had fought for. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the room, Grace felt an unsettling sense of dread wash over her. How had it come to this? The kitchen, once filled with laughter, now felt like a battleground, and the fight for her grandkids' hearts had only just begun. Grace gazed out the window. "What a beautiful day," she whispered. Rachel noticed her distant look. "You seemed lost in thought." The smell of rain on pavement wafted through the slightly open kitchen window, mingling with the aroma of the apple pie cooling on the counter. Grace stirred a pot of stew on the stove, her mind preoccupied with the warmth of the home she had built for her grandkids. The distant sound of traffic hummed in the background, a constant reminder of life moving outside, while her heart brimmed with a bittersweet hope. After years of caring for them, she had finally carved out a sense of normalcy, a fragile peace that she cherished. The sudden buzz of her phone startled her, and she wiped her hands on a dish towel before glancing at the screen. It was Rachel. Grace's heart sank. Rachel had been largely absent from their lives, consumed by her struggles, and the last thing she expected was a call demanding to see her children. Yet, here it was, a lifeline thrown from the depths of her daughter's chaotic existence. "Mom, I need to see the kids," Rachel's voice crackled through the receiver, laced with urgency. "Rachel, is everything okay?" Grace asked, concern creeping into her voice. "You haven't been around. I didn't think you wanted to." "Just listen," Rachel interrupted, her tone sharp. "I want to see them today. Meet me at the park. I want to talk." Grace stared out the kitchen window, watching raindrops slide down the glass, feeling the weight of an impending storm settle in her chest. She had worked so hard to protect her grandkids from the turmoil of their mother's life. "Okay, I'll bring them," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. The park was a familiar spot, a small oasis where her grandkids played freely, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. But today, the air felt thick with tension. As she arrived, she spotted Rachel standing near the swings, her hair damp from the rain, an expression of determination etched across her face. The children, oblivious to the brewing storm, raced ahead, their joy an innocent contrast to the unease Grace felt. "Mom!" one of her grandkids called, running up to Grace with a smile that lit up her heart. But before she could respond, Rachel stepped forward, her eyes sharp and focused. "Hi, kids," Rachel said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I missed you." "Rachel," Grace said, trying to keep her tone neutral, "we were just about to have a fun day. What's going on?" Rachel crossed her arms, her posture defensive. "I want to take them for ice cream, just for a little while. I deserve that, don't I?" Grace felt the weight of the moment. "You've been gone for so long, Rachel. They need stability. I can't just let you take them, you know that." "Oh my God, you're still trying to control everything," Rachel snapped, her voice rising. "They're my kids too. You think you're their mother now?" The children paused, sensing the tension in the air. Grace's heart raced. She could see the confusion in their eyes, caught between the two women they loved. "Rachel, please," Grace said softly, trying to keep her voice calm. "Let's talk about this. You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay. Why don't you just admit it?" Rachel shot back, her face flushed. "You've kidnapped them from me. I'm their mother." Grace felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath her. "Kidnapped?" she echoed, her voice trembling with disbelief. "I've raised them for 13 years, Rachel. I did what I had to do to keep them safe." Rachel's expression turned cold, a mask of anger and hurt. "Safe? You think you're doing them a favor? You're just trying to erase me from their lives." The distant sound of traffic faded into the background as Grace struggled to keep her emotions in check. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Reflection. That moment at the park changed everything. "Rachel, this isn't about erasing you. It's about giving them a stable environment." "Stable?" Rachel scoffed, her laughter bitter. "And what have you done? You're just a glorified babysitter now." Grace clenched her fists, feeling her heart race with frustration. "You're right. I've stepped in because you weren't there, but that doesn't make me a kidnapper. It makes me their grandmother, the one who's been there through it all." The children stood between them, their faces a mix of confusion and concern, sensing the emotional storm brewing. Grace knelt down to their level, the weight of her love pouring into her gaze. "You both know I love you, right? No one is taking you away from your mom. We just need to figure this out." Rachel rolled her eyes, her defiance wavering for a moment. "You can't just act like everything's fine when it's not. You've made your choice." Grace felt a shiver of fear run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated. "I only want what's best for you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "All of you." But Rachel wasn't listening. The tension hung heavily in the air, and as the clouds darkened above them, Grace knew this confrontation was just the beginning. The fragile peace they had fought so hard to maintain was cracking, and the storm was far from over. Grace took a deep breath. "We need to have a serious conversation." Rachel tensed up. "About what exactly?" The rain drizzled lightly, the scent of wet pavement wafting through the air as Grace stepped out onto her porch. She could hear the cheerful chirping of birds, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside her heart. The light patter of raindrops against the wooden floor echoed her turmoil. She had just finished preparing a batch of pancakes, their sweet aroma mingling with the fresh smell of rain, but the warmth of the kitchen felt worlds away from the chill of her current situation. As she sat down, her mind raced. Rachel was coming over, and Grace could already feel the tension building. It had been a long time since their last confrontation, but this was different. Rachel had accused her of kidnapping her own grandkids. The idea felt ludicrous and cruel, yet it hung in the air like the thick humidity before a storm. A knock shattered her thoughts, and before she could respond, Rachel entered. The door creaked ominously, mirroring the fraught atmosphere between them. Rachel's face was tight, her eyes flaring with pent-up frustration. "Oh my God, Grace, we need to talk," she declared, her voice rising with each word. "Talk? About what? You mean your ridiculous claims? I can't believe this," Grace shot back, trying to keep her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The pancakes sat cooling on the table, untouched, as if they were part of a bygone era of family harmony. "I just want to see my kids," Rachel's voice cracked, and she threw her arms up in exasperation. "But you've kept them from me for too long. You've been controlling everything." Grace's heart sank at the accusation. "Controlling? I stepped in because you were struggling. I did what I thought was best for them, for you." The anger in her voice surprised her, but it was the truth. She had fought tooth and nail to keep the kids safe. "Best for them or best for you?" Rachel shot back, her words like daggers. "You've made them depend on you. They don't even want to come home to me." The tension thickened like the clouds overhead, and the kids, sensing the discord, peeked around the corner. Their small faces were twisted in confusion. Grace felt a pang of sadness as she noticed their wide, innocent eyes darting between her and Rachel. "Mommy, can we stay with Grandma?" one of them whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. "See, they want to be with me," Rachel responded, her voice rising again. "You've turned them against me." Grace knelt down, her heart aching as she looked into the eyes of her grandkids. "You know Grandma loves you, right? I just want what's best for you," she said softly, trying to comfort them. "But Mommy's our Mommy," the little girl said, her voice shaking. "We want to see her too." The words struck Grace hard. She could feel the weight of their confusion pressing down on her chest. "I'm not trying to take you away from your mom," she said, her voice cracking. "I just want you to be safe." "Safe?" Rachel scoffed, crossing her arms. "You think keeping them away from me is safe? You think that's right?" In that moment, Grace felt a mix of desperation and clarity. "You need help, Rachel. I can't just hand them over when you're not ready. I won't put them through that again." It was a gamble, but she had to say it. Rachel's face twisted with anger and hurt. "You think you're the only one who loves them? You've turned this into your own little kingdom, Grace. This isn't fair." Grace stood up, her emotions boiling over. "Fair? What's fair is me stepping in when you couldn't. You've made choices that put them in danger." The air between them crackled with unresolved tension, and Grace could see the flicker of pain in Rachel's eyes. But as the words hung heavy, a surprising realization hit Grace like a bolt of lightning. "You know what? Maybe I have been too controlling," she admitted, her voice softening. "But it was out of fear. I didn't want to lose them, or you." Rachel paused, taken aback by Grace's unexpected admission. "You think I wanted to be like this? I wanted to be there for them, but I messed up, and now it's too late." The rain began to pour harder, a steady rhythm that matched the frantic beating of Grace's heart. She took a deep breath, the scent of the rain mingling with her bittersweet memories. "Maybe it's not too late for either of us," she said quietly. "But we need to be honest. I can't do this alone, and neither can you." David, who had been silently observing from the sidelines, finally spoke up. "You both need each other to figure this out," he said gently. "And those kids need both of you in their lives. It's not about winning or losing, it's about being there for them." The unexpected solidarity from David hung in the air, a fragile bridge between the two women. Grace felt a flicker of hope as she looked at Rachel, whose expression had softened, though uncertainty still lingered in her eyes. "Can we at least try?" Grace asked, her voice almost a whisper. Rachel hesitated, her gaze shifting to her children, who stood quietly, eyes wide and hopeful. Maybe we can try," she finally said, her voice trembling. In that moment, as the rain fell around them, Grace realized that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. But for the first time in a long time, she felt the stirrings of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something new, something they could build together, for the sake of the children they both loved. The rain had just started to drizzle, the scent of wet pavement mixing with the earthy aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through Grace's backyard. She stood under the small awning, clutching her mug tightly, preserve the original language of her palms. Birds chirped in the distance, their cheerful songs contrasting sharply with the storm of emotions swirling inside her. Grace's heart raced as she replayed Rachel's accusations in her mind. "Kidnapping? Oh my God, I can't believe this," she muttered to herself, shaking her head in disbelief. The very idea felt like a knife twisting in her gut. She had devoted 13 years of her life to her grandkids, raising them with love and care while Rachel struggled through her addiction. And now, the woman she had fought to protect was turning against her, casting her as the villain. With a heavy sigh, she stepped into the house, her heart sinking further as her eyes fell on a small wooden box tucked away on a shelf. Inside were old letters and mementos from the past. Curiosity piqued, she opened it, revealing a letter from Lily's father, a man she had tried to forget. The words blurred together as she read his concerns about Rachel's ability to care for the children. "She can't provide a stable home for them," he had written. "I'm worried for their future." Each word felt like a blow to her confidence, dredging up painful memories of Rachel's struggles and the choices that had led them to this moment. Just then, her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was David, her lifelong friend. "Grace, I'm worried about you. Have you heard from Rachel again?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. "I just found a letter from Lily's father," Grace replied, her voice trembling. "It talks about how unfit Rachel is. I thought I was doing the right thing by stepping in, but now I don't know." "You've always done what's best for those kids. Don't let Rachel's words shake your resolve," David urged. "Just remember, you're their rock." As she hung up, Grace felt a newfound strength welling up within her. She was determined to fight for her grandkids. But the unease lingered. There was more to this than just Rachel's accusations. What if Lily was involved with a group that believed in parental rights without considering the kids' best interest? Grace's heart raced at the thought. This could turn dangerous. That moment in the backyard changed everything for her. The weight of her past collided with the uncertainty of her future, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. She had always prided herself on being a protector, but now the walls felt like they were closing in. With a resolute breath, Grace decided to confront Rachel once more. She needed answers, and she needed to understand how deep this rabbit hole went. The thought of Lily getting caught up in a movement that disregarded her welfare made her stomach churn. Later that evening, Rachel returned, her face a mask of defiance. "You have no right to keep them from me, Grace," she spat, her voice sharp. "I'm not keeping them from you," Grace shot back, her heart racing. "I'm trying to protect them. You know you're not fit to care for them right now," Rachel scoffed, her eyes blazing. "You think you're better than me? I know what's best for my kids." "Then why are you getting involved with those people?" Grace pressed, her voice rising. "You know they don't care about the children. They just want to create chaos." Rachel's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "What do you mean? Those parental rights groups, do you even realize what they stand for? It's not about the kids, Rachel," Grace exclaimed, her heart pounding. "They'll take them from you without a second thought if it suits their agenda." "Oh my God," Rachel whispered, her bravado faltering. "You're just trying to scare me." "No, I'm trying to save you and them," Grace replied, desperation creeping into her voice. "We can't let this happen." As the rain poured down outside, Grace felt a storm brewing within. She couldn't let Rachel drag Lily into a world of chaos and manipulation. This fight was about more than just accusations. It was about the future of her grandkids, and she was ready to do whatever it took to protect them, even if it meant standing alone against her daughter. With renewed determination, Grace stepped forward, the weight of her love for her grandkids fueling her resolve. "I won't let you take them down this path," she said, her voice steady. "I'll fight for them, no matter what." In that moment, as the rain washed away the remnants of the day, Grace felt a surge of strength. She had faced the darkness before, and she would do it again, this time for her grandkids. Grace stood on the porch, the morning sun warming her skin as she sipped her coffee, the familiar aroma wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. The distant sound of traffic hummed in the background, a reminder of life continuing beyond her small world. Yet, within her, a storm brewed, and she felt the weight of Rachel's accusations pressing down on her chest. How had it come to this? With a heavy heart, Grace decided it was time to document the love she had poured into raising her grandkids over the past 13 years. She gathered her supplies, a scrapbook, markers, and countless photos, and settled down at the small table on the porch. Each snapshot brought back memories, the kids' first steps, their laughter echoing through the house, the backyard barbecues where they'd all sat together, the smell of grilled burgers wafting through the air as they shared stories and dreams. As she flipped through the pictures, her heart swelled with pride. She wrote captions beneath each photo, words of encouragement and love. "This is our family," she wrote, the ink capturing the essence of what they had built together. But as she penned her thoughts, doubt crept in. Would it be enough to show that she had acted out of love, not malice? Determined to understand her rights, Grace reached out to a family lawyer specializing in custody battles. The meeting was tense, the air thick with uncertainty. The lawyer, a kind woman named Lisa, listened carefully as Grace recounted her situation. "You need to be prepared for a fight, Grace," Lisa said gently, her eyes reflecting a mix of sympathy and resolve. "Grandparents can have rights, but it's not easy to navigate these waters." Grace felt a flicker of hope amidst the fear. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "You need to document everything, your relationship with the kids, their well-being, everything you've done to provide for them," Lisa instructed. Grace nodded, feeling the weight of the world lift slightly. She could do this. She would do this. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, Grace's phone buzzed. It was David, her longtime friend. "Hey, how are you holding up?" he asked. His tone filled with concern. "Not great, honestly," Grace admitted, her voice shaky. "Rachel is accusing me of kidnapping the kids, and I'm just trying to protect them." "Oh my God, I can't believe this," David replied, disbelief coloring his tone. "You've done nothing but love them." "I thought so," Grace said, her heart sinking. "But Rachel sees it differently. She's so caught up in her own struggles that she doesn't even recognize the home we've built." "Have you thought about talking to her?" David suggested. "I've tried," Grace said, frustration creeping into her voice. "But every time I reach out, she just pushes me away. It's like she can't see past her own pain." Reflection. That moment on the porch changed everything. Grace realized she couldn't allow Rachel's accusations to define her. She had to stand firm for her grandkids. As night settled in, Grace stared at the scrapbook, a testament to her journey. She had poured her heart into it, capturing every moment that had made their family whole. The faint sound of laughter from the kids' room brought a smile to her face, a reminder of what she was fighting for. Suddenly, she heard a knock at the door. Her heart raced as she opened it to find Tom standing there, arms crossed, an expression of disapproval etched on his face. "Grace, we need to talk about Rachel," he said, his voice firm. "I don't think this is the right time," she replied, trying to keep her emotions in check. "No, it is the right time. You're overstepping, Grace. Rachel needs those kids back. She's their mother." The tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. "You don't understand what she's been through," Grace said, her voice rising. "I'm not trying to take them away from her. I'm trying to give them a stable home." "You've taken them from her," Tom countered, his tone accusing. "What do you think she feels? She's hurting, and you're just making it worse." Grace's heart sank further. The betrayal from her own brother, cutting deeper than Rachel's accusations. "I didn't kidnap them, Tom. I raised them because I love them. They need me." Tom shook his head, disbelief etched across his features. "You think this is love? It's selfishness, Grace. You're pushing her away." The smell of morning coffee lingered, but now it felt bitter. Was she being selfish? The conversation spiraled, each word a dagger, and as Tom stormed off, Grace felt the walls closing in around her. She had fought so hard for her grandkids, yet here she was, facing conflict from every angle. That night, as she lay in bed, the scrapbook beside her, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. She had to prepare for the battle ahead, armed not just with love, but with the documentation of the life they had built together. Grace knew she had to stand her ground, not just for herself, but for the children who depended on her unwavering devotion. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden rays across Grace's backyard, where the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the crisp morning air. Birds chirped cheerfully in the trees, a stark contrast to the tension brewing in her heart. She sat at the patio table, surrounded by a few family photos, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared for the mediation session. Today was the day she would face Rachel head-on, the daughter she had raised and fought for, who now stood as her greatest adversary. When Rachel arrived, the tension was palpable. Grace watched her approach, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. Rachel's eyes darted around the yard, taking in the familiar surroundings that had once been a haven for her children. "I can't believe we're doing this," Rachel said, her voice shaky as she crossed her arms defensively. "Neither can I," Grace replied, her heart sinking. "But we need to talk about what's best for the kids." They settled into their seats, a mediator joining them to facilitate the discussion. Grace could feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on her, the air thick with unsaid words. "So, let's hear your case, Rachel," the mediator prompted. Rachel took a deep breath, her composure faltering. "I want my kids back, Grace. You've kept them from me for too long. They need their mother." Grace felt a surge of frustration. "You know that's not true. I've been here for them when you couldn't be." Rachel's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "But you're not their mother. You can't just take them away from me. Oh my God, you act like you're their parent." The kids, sitting quietly beside Grace, finally found their voices. Lily, her oldest granddaughter, spoke up. "We want to stay with Grandma. She takes care of us." Grace felt a flicker of hope as she glanced at Lily, who wore a brave expression. "You see, they feel safe here, Rachel. They love you, but they need stability." Rachel's expression shifted, and for a moment, Grace thought she saw a glimmer of understanding. But then, the walls came crashing down. "It's not just about them, Grace. I've been struggling. You don't know what it's like to feel like a failure," Rachel shouted, her voice breaking. "I can't do this without you judging me." Grace's heart ached as she watched her daughter unravel. "I'm not judging you, Rachel. I just want you to be okay. We can work through this together." Rachel shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't understand. I can't even look at myself in the mirror anymore. I feel like I'm failing at everything. I need my kids, but I feel so lost." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. In that moment, Grace saw the little girl she once held in her arms, the one who had laughed and played in this very backyard. "I wish you would have come to me sooner," Grace said softly. "I would have helped you, but you pushed me away." Rachel's shoulders slumped as she finally let out a sob. "I'm so scared, Grace. I don't want to lose them, but I don't know how to be a good mom anymore." As she watched her daughter's breakdown, Grace's heart swelled with empathy. "We can figure this out," she said, her voice steady. "You don't have to do it alone. I'm here, and I always will be." At that moment, the tension in the air shifted. The kids shifted closer to Grace, their eyes wide with concern for their mother. Lily reached out, placing a comforting hand on Rachel's arm. "We love you, Mom. We want you to be okay too." Grace inhaled deeply, the smell of morning coffee now bittersweet. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but also a flicker of hope. "Let's take this one step at a time, together," she said, looking between Rachel and the kids. "We can make it work, I promise." The mediator nodded, sensing the shift. "This is a good start," he said cautiously. "Let's explore options that keep the family together." Grace could barely believe the words coming out of her mouth. The path ahead was uncertain, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had always fought for her grandkids, and now, perhaps, she could help Rachel find her way back too. As they sat there in the backyard, amidst the laughter of the children and the warmth of the sun, Grace realized that family could heal, even when it seemed broken beyond repair. "Enough!" Grace shouted, her voice echoing. "Please let me speak," Rachel pleaded. "There's nothing left to say," Grace finalized. "Enough!" Grace shouted, her voice echoing. "Please let me speak," Rachel pleaded. "There's nothing left to say," Grace finalized. The silence that followed felt oppressive, filled with the weight of unexpressed emotions. Grace's heart raced as she tried to calm her breathing, the tension in her chest tightening like a vice. She looked at Rachel, who was now staring at the ground, her shoulders shaking. The kids fidgeted in their seats, glancing nervously between their mother and grandmother. "Rachel," Grace began, her voice softer now, "I understand you're hurting, I do. But shouting won't fix anything. We have to find a way to communicate." Rachel looked up, her eyes red and puffy. "But what if I can't? What if I'm just not enough?" Her voice cracked, a raw vulnerability spilling forth. "You are enough," Grace insisted, leaning forward, trying to bridge the gap that had widened between them. "You're their mother, and despite everything, you love them. That counts for something." A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead, carrying with it the distant sound of traffic and the faint laughter of children playing in a nearby park. Grace inhaled deeply, the familiar scent of blooming flowers mingling with the sharp tang of impending rain. She could feel the dark clouds gathering above, mirroring the storm of emotions swirling in the backyard. "I want to help you, Rachel," Grace continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We can set up a plan. Maybe therapy or a support group. You don't have to navigate this alone. I'll be right here." Rachel's gaze softened, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "But what if I fail again? I can't bear the thought of letting them down." Grace reached across the table, her hand covering Rachel's. "You won't be alone this time. We'll take it one day at a time. You have so much love to give, and your kids need you to try." Lily, sensing the shift, piped up, "Mom, we believe in you." Her innocent voice cut through the tension, and even Rachel cracked a small smile, the corners of her lips twitching upward. As the first drops of rain began to fall, Grace felt a glimmer of hope ignite within her. "Let's start today," she said, looking into Rachel's eyes. "Let's not let the rain drown out our chances." The kids nodded in unison, and for the first time in a long while, Grace felt the fragile threads of their family begin to weave back together. The morning sun filtered gently through the trees in Grace's backyard, casting dappled shadows on the grass where her grandkids often played. The air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, mingling with the sweet scent of apple pie cooling on the kitchen counter. Birds chirped cheerfully overhead, a stark contrast to the weight pressing on Grace's heart. She had spent 13 years nurturing and loving her grandkids, and yet here she was, grappling with the fallout of Rachel's accusations. Grace stood near the porch, her thoughts swirling like the steam rising from her coffee mug. She recalled the mediation session, the way Rachel's face twisted in disbelief as they discussed the past. "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening," Rachel had said, her voice trembling with anger and confusion. Grace had felt her own heart sink at the realization that their family dynamic had shattered once again. In the wake of that meeting, Grace knew she had to change her approach. She had been so focused on protecting the kids, on ensuring they felt safe and loved, that she hadn't realized the damage her own actions had inflicted on Rachel. It was time to reach out, to offer support instead of judgment. She needed to heal the rift between them, not just for her own sake, but for the kids, who deserved to have both their mother and grandmother in their lives. Taking a deep breath, Grace picked up her phone and dialed Rachel's number. After a few rings, her daughter answered. "What do you want, Grace?" Rachel's tone was sharp, laced with pain. I want to talk. I want to understand," Grace replied, her voice steady, determined. "I know things have been hard, and I might have made it worse by being overprotective. I'm here to listen." Rachel hesitated, the silence stretching between them like a chasm. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer now. "You don't understand, Mom. I feel like you took them from me." "I never meant to. I thought I was doing what was best for them," Grace said, feeling the weight of her own regret. "But I see now that I also need to do what's best for you. Can we try to rebuild this together?" The line was quiet for a moment, and Grace could almost hear Rachel's heart wrestling with the emotions of their complicated history. "I don't know if I can trust you again," Rachel finally admitted, her voice breaking. "I'll do whatever it takes to earn that trust back," Grace said, her heart swelling with hope. "Let's start small. How about I bring the kids over for a visit? Just supervised at first, so we can take our time." The idea hung in the air like a promise, fragile but full of potential. I guess that could work," Rachel replied cautiously. "But I need to be there to make sure they're okay." Grace smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Absolutely. I want you to be there. I want us to be a family again, Rachel." As they ended the call, Grace looked around her backyard, the place that had been a sanctuary for her grandkids. They had thrived here, growing in ways she could only dream of. She realized that the love she had poured into their lives was not just about keeping them safe. It was about nurturing a bond that could withstand the storms of their family's tumultuous past. The children, now aware that their mother would be spending time with them again, felt the excitement buzzing in the air. Grace watched as they laughed and chased each other around, their giggles rising like the morning sun. The gradual rebuilding of their relationship with Rachel would take time, but she could see the first signs of hope blooming, much like the flowers in her garden. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Grace was determined to make it work. She had fought for her grandkids, and now she would fight for her daughter too. The aroma of apple pie wafted through the air, a reminder that sometimes sweetness could emerge from the most bitter of circumstances. As she prepared for the day ahead, Grace found herself thinking about the lessons learned through this turmoil. That love and understanding could mend even the deepest rifts, and that family, no matter how broken, could find a way back to one another. The backyard was more than just a space. It was a symbol of resilience, a place where healing could begin. And as Grace looked out at her grandkids, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and hope. In the end, she knew that the bonds of family were not easily severed, and with each step forward, they could reclaim the love that had been lost. "After all this, we can find our way back," Grace whispered to herself, a quiet promise echoing in her heart. And you, on your porch, what steps will you take to mend the ties that bind?